With the 2023 elections fast approaching, the Senate has re-amended the Electoral Act for the third time, this time to allow statutory delegates to participate in party congresses and conventions. This is even as a coalition of civil society organizations are calling on morals for public office holders in Nigeria and are asking for the rights of Nigerians to participate in the democratic process. They say in the last 7 years of the Buhari-led administration, Nigeria is still faced with insecurity, misappropriation of public funds, fuel scarcity, as well as other worrisome issues. The civil society organizations bemoan the high cost of nomination forms for public offices. They also say the high cost of nomination forms has put a lid on any hopes of the participation of youths in the forthcoming elections. This, they say, has led to an increase in money politics and created room for unbridled political corruption.
The government needs to apologize to Nigerians for deceiving them. This administration sold an empty moral capital to the people. Today, it has shown itself morally. Second, there is need to immediately sack and commence an investigation of all ministers and political appointees that have bought forms to contest election without resignation, which is in contradiction or in contravening of the Electoral Act 2022 as amended. Those holding elective and appointed public offices must dedicate the remaining period in the office to repair the terrible image and morals of this administration by genuinely working for Nigerians, fixing many challenges facing the economy and making democracy work for the people, other than the less than 1% ruling class that has cornered 90% of the country's resources.
Well, for more on this, I'm being joined in the studio by Auwal Rafsanjani, the Executive Director, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Centre and Head of Transparency International, as well as Ezenwa Nwagwu, who is the Chairman of the Partners for Electoral Reform. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me on the Rise interview.
Thank you.
Well, you had a press conference earlier today. Before we go into details of what you discussed, just moments ago, the Nigerian Senate has amended for a third time the Electoral Act. They all praised the Electoral Act ahead of this election. This time around, they say it's an oversight. You know, they missed out statutory delegates. But how significant is this? Some would say this is shifting the goalpost while the game has started. Do you also think that way? Let me start with you, Rafsanjani.
Well, I think one thing that some members of the National Assembly need to remember, need to understand is that legislative process or lawmaking people have to be involved. During the public hearings, when the Electoral Act amendment was going on, one they also received memorandum and a lot of consultation were done. Those were not issues that Nigerians have canvassed. But in their own wisdom, because laws are now being gradually personalized, people are making law just for their own sake, not for the nation. That is why you are seeing this maneuver, this process that is completely not participatory, that is not in the interest of democracy and Nigerian people. Other than that, there's no reason why the law that you have not even tested, you are amending it for the third time. Why can't you allow this law to be tested first to see where you have challenges before you now begin to mutilate it? It is simply because some people want to keep the status quo. Some people want to continue to manipulate, hijack democracy and credible electoral process in Nigeria, which will be encompassing. Remember, it was civil society that have insisted that electoral amendment has to carry out in order to ensure that we have integrity in the electoral process and also restore the confidence of Nigerians to believe in the electoral process. But with what Senate is doing now, is actually dashing confidence and hope for many Nigerians to have a law that will at least comply with, will help to eliminate a lot of electoral malpractices. But surely we believe that the House of Representatives will reason and not do what maybe Senate has done. Because in the House of Representatives, you also have divergent views, you have more progressive views in the House of Representatives. So hopefully we are anticipating that the House of Representatives will listen to the yearning and aspiration of Nigerian people, not to toe in line with Senate, which is more of like elites that have conspired just to keep their status quo in that place. Okay. With due respect to Senate, some of them, we know that they mean well for the country, but we know a lot of them, they don't care about sustaining even what they are benefiting, which is democracy.
Mr. Ezenwa, do you also think this is self-preservation? Because it will look as if this is for the political parties to have full participation by all members of the political parties, having statutory delegates involved in the congresses.
Well, these statutory delegates are already defined as governors, as presidents, as members of the State House of Assembly and all. So, is a self-preservatory bill. If you remember, there are sunshine laws that have stayed up to 12 years in this National Assembly. Things like the whistleblower bill, things like these other beautiful laws that can enhance integrity in our democratic process have been stalled in that place. But today we have an emergency bill that took first reading, second reading, third reading. So there's something that is not sitting well in the way we progress. And what is corruption? Corruption is the abuse of public trust for personal gain. So anytime you make a law that advances the interest of a few, you actually have abused the process. And there is no better definition of political corruption than what we're seeing currently. And it's amazing that the place that we go for electoral reforms is indeed the cemetery of the integrity of the process. That is where good laws are buried. The Senate is supposed to be the place we go for. It's first and foremost Nigeria's foremost anti-corruption agency, because it has the responsibility to oversight, and make good laws for the progress of the country. But at every time, we even see people working for a reversal. And I think that is what we need to challenge. The investment in the Electoral Act that produced there are final details in that Electoral Act that we applaud. But at every opportunity, they are seeing whether they can take advantage to advance personal interests. Okay,
so let's talk about the press conference you've had today as civil society organizations in Nigeria. What has necessitated this? When you call for morals in public offices, some people will say morals and politicians should never be used in the same phrase. But tell us, what exactly has necessitated this press conference you've held today?
We were very worried and disturbed that public officials are abusing our, electoral law and the law of the land. The Electoral Act clearly states that if you want to contest election, you have to resign. And we have not seen that resignation coming from top ministers, including ministers that are supposed to be custodian of our law. And they keep on using public taxpayers' money, using the vehicles, the private jet, the jet. Yes, of course, when they travel, they go with the sarin, with the government cars. They carry, aids that are being paid by government, corpus. They also use security, who are government also, workers. So a lot of, this one is not even a debate. They actually use public taxpayers' money to advance their own personal thing without resignation. That's one. Number two, you have a sitting central bank governor that has actually broken the law he's supposed to be protecting. The Central Bank Act clearly shows that he cannot or she cannot engage in any other business, because that place is supposed to be a neutral place. Today, the Central Bank of Nigeria had even gone ahead to go to court to demand that his right be imposed to contest election while serving as Central Bank of Governor. Look, two laws have been broken here. The act of the Central Bank that prohibit him from actually participating in any other business. Second, the Electoral Act also prohibits him without resignation we don't have problem with him. Let him just resign and contest. We have no problem. But you cannot be the custodian of the nation, finances, and then you are engaging. Your attention is not in that. With all the recesses, with all the financial, crisis we have, your attention is not focused on rebuilding and bringing confidence for even investment on that. Secondly, you also have a situation whereby sensitive materials are domiciled in INEC, in Central Bank. Now, if he insists that he must contest, it means that the election is already rigged, because if he's going to be the custodian of the sensitive, material for election in 2023, and he's contesting, how confidence do you think Nigerians will have on him? So there are a lot of implications, and repercussion of this kind of act. I think what civil society and Nigerian people, because civil society is only amplifying the views of Nigerians, and from what Nigerians have been canvassing, they want him, if he want to contest, they want him to honorably resign.
Okay. And some people put up the argument, first, we don't know how long and if he's a card-carrying member of any political party. If yes, for how long? Because we've had elections in the past, and he's been central bank governor. This is the second tenure. Have there been any electoral malfunction, electoral issues that have been brought as a result of him being the central bank governor and overseeing that agency? So these are some questions people will be asking. But Mr. Ezenwa, let's look at it in broad terms, because he's also speaking about ministers who haven't resigned and occupying their position. Is it a function of the ambiguity of the law? Because you hear them specifically say, as a citizen of Nigeria, I hold on to the Constitution, Section 137, which says I can be in office till 30 days before the election. So they seem to be holding on to the Constitution, which is the ground norm, and not the Electoral Act. Is this a function of the law ambiguity?
They can cherry pick.
Yes.
Really. They have right to cherry pick which laws they obey. And we went to do all that we did for that Electoral Act to be passed. And the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation was part of the wider circle for passing that law, and is in breach of it because he thinks that there's a constitutional lacuna. So you were talking about the disconnect between ethical politics and the kind of thing that we're having now. But reality is that the people of Nigeria put this administration in place on a moral card. There's a moral card which was given to Nigerians that we will not tolerate impunity, that will not tolerate this kind of hide and seek that you are seeing. The moral health of the fiscal and monetary policies of this country depend on somebody. And there are ethical issues. The banking industry is about ethics, because there are perception issues. It can have effect on your stock market. It can have effect on your investment portfolios and the capacity of people to invest in your country. And somebody is playing hide and seek with that, and we don't have anything. We are waiting. Did you know that fascism was legal? Did you know that Adolf Hitler was running on a law? So it's not just about that. It's about these people understanding that their actions and inactions have consequences, and that these consequences are dire. For an institution like the Central Bank of Nigeria, you should understand that the place it occupies, the trust deficit in our country has put us in a position where we think that is the safest place to keep, our sensitive materials for elections. And who knows, membership for a political party is not advertised. It's not put on a card. But if there are people who are buying forms for you, if there are vehicles that are branded in your name, if there are vehicles all over the place bearing your insignia, and it's only now that you want God to tell you whether you are going to run or not, there's something not just morally. And then there's a CBN Act that is very clear that even the thinking that God should speak to you, then you will now run, has already violated Section 9 of the CBN Act, which says that that thought should not even come to your head while you are sitting as the CBN governor. And the challenge we have in Nigeria is that we pet we pet this kind of crass opportunism that we are seeing. We keep petting it, we massage it, and give the impression that until there's a legal explanation for that, then we can't make progress. But I think that nobody is talking about participation, whether you want to participate or not. But the truth is that for ethical reasons, for moral reasons, for the perception that is conferred on you, we think that the guy should step aside. Okay.
And let's talk about, you talk about participation and the people as well in this press conference you had today. Citizens' participation, by and large, how would you say citizens view elections in Nigeria, Mr. Rafsanjani? Is it a tool to build effective democratic institutions or to make people in power more powerful?
No, when we struggle for the restoration of democracy, when we face the army with their guns, brutalizing us day and night, for us to have democracy restored in Nigeria, because it's important to put this into historical context. The beneficiary of today's democracy were not part of struggle for restoration of democracy. In fact, they were collaborators of the military junta at that time. Now, when activists largely, agitated and promoted, return of democracy, we have democracy in place, but we are lacking true Democrats to drive that process. And that's part of the challenge that we are having. Now, when you eliminate Nigerians who are competent, qualified, patriotic, who have popular support from the grassroots up to the national level, you ambush them because you commercialize and privatize the political processes because of the corruption in the political party system and lack of internal democracy. You have actually limited the participation of other Nigerians who want to contribute genuinely, to the governance in this country. Not necessarily presidency, but even at local government level, where they've already killed the local governance there, because grassroots democracy have been virtually killed as a result of the action of some governors in the country. They refuse to allow, election in many of the local government and allow people to even experience democracy at that level, so that they can actually get experience and come to state assembly or state level to participate. Then from there they can even graduate to come to the national level, so that you can actually have quality people. Secondly, the recruitment process in the political parties have collapsed. This is why you have in the past, in the previous democracy we had, in the previous election before 1999, you had political parties that are based on not only ideology, but its members had to finance the activities of the political parties by contributing their membership due. Today, membership due is no longer there. So there's no ownership. Yes, because there's no ownership, the parties have become platform just for business, for contract, for capturing power, for self-interest, not for the people. Because otherwise, political parties within its members, if it runs democratically, it will have been able to identify potential leaders that they can put forward for election. Now, it is more about individuals who just want to capture the power, continue to do whatever he likes or she likes without accountability.
Can we blame the leaders only in all of this, Mr. Ezenwa? The people, and we've seen support groups across board buying forms for Nigerian politicians who are known to be buoyant ordinarily, but now they are being bought forms to contest political offices. I mean, that's what's happening. We're seeing groups come up.
No. See, this, you know how these people, they are called shadowy groups.
Shadowy groups.
They are called shadowy groups. They represent the interest of their masters. Okay? The process started with the hijack of the party administration and machinery by chief executives. And you can pinpoint that when you started having somebody call himself the leader of the party. Okay? The president became the leader of the party. And from that point in time, he ensured that party meetings held in the villa, party meetings are holding in government houses in the state. Okay, the governors are the leaders of the party. There is in situations that where you have a governor, all these forms that we are talking about, he has paid for it, he has collected it, and is giving to whoever he wants. In Nigeria, that we are seeing now. So the data appropriation, indeed, Rafsanjani calls it ambush. The ambush of the party machinery by these chief executives and deep pockets have created the situation in which you have like people who are not stakeholders. That's the people you are talking about. So you are a member of a political party, you are attending the Congress, somebody transports you to the place, somebody feeds you, somebody gives you the clothes that you wear to the place, and then gives you money to go back. Your stakeholdership in that enterprise is already questioned. So the hijack by the money bags and the chief executives of states and even the national level have created the enabling environment for what you were asking. Where did it go wrong? You didn't have a situation in which Chief Adisa Akinloye will be sitting behind, and the President Shehu Shagari will be the one directing the affairs of the MPN. It didn't happen. You couldn't have the chair of the party was the leader. So members who joined AG, UPN, were cadres. They were called cadres of the party because they went through ideological orientation. The fluidity of movement today, where somebody is APC in the morning and then in the evening he has become PDP. And then PDP in the daytime, and then later in the morning the next day he has become APC. That fluidity means that there are even no laws governing anything. People who were serving in a previous government are today collecting forms in an opposition party in which, so what would they explain? How would they explain the challenges that we are feeling? So the bigger issue is that you don't want to blame the victim. You must understand that the pauperization, the continued pauperization that is taking place under this government and the one that it succeeded have put the people in a position where elections have become a bazaar.
So you're talking about weaponization of poverty.
Absolutely.
But again, don't we have to question the political consciousness of the people? For instance, just an example. The APC boasts of having over 41 million members under its fold. Are you saying that a few money bags, are able to hijack the party over 41 million people?
So look at the issue about the humongous amount of money for positions, for instance. Is there anybody in court? If I go to court now, the issue about what I become a meddlesome interloper, is that right? So how many APC members are in court challenging? No. Do you understand? How many? So that's not, or how many have petitioned that this amount is? So that tells you the control. There is control, and the dominant individuals may not necessarily be those in government. That's why I talked about deep pockets and chief executives. There are people who are not necessarily in government, but are in control. They've territorialized the constituencies. They've taken hold. So even if you want to take the party card, they tell you to go and meet.
Okay. All right. There's another aspect to this conversation, which is the young people. Are they being excluded? But we'll have that conversation after this break. Gentlemen, stay with me. You're watching the Rise interview. There'll be much more after this break. Welcome back to the Rise interview, where we speak to newsmakers as well as ordinary people doing extraordinary things around the world, as well as featuring the voices at the heart of the stories. I'm Adeso Moran, and my guests are still Auwal Rafsanjani, the Executive Director, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Centre and Head of Transparency International, as well as Ezenwa Nwagwu, Chairman, Partners for Electoral Reforms. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for staying with us. Before that break, we're talking about the political parties in Nigeria, internal democracy. We've spoken about some other issues, but let's look at the sales of forms, the monetization of political aspirations. We've also mentioned this in passing. Political parties have made justifications for these prices. For instance, the APC says, which is the ruling party, says one of it is to discourage unserious contenders. However, we still see the numbers coming in. I wonder what you make of that. Does this connote a more democratic society where people are interested in the democratic process and the political parties in Nigeria, or what exactly is going on? Let me start with you, Ezenwa.
So you monetize a process to discourage.
Is leadership for sale in Nigeria?
So you monetize a process to discourage people, and then that's coming from the head of a democratic institution. So it tells you about the quality. So somebody has said that we are practicing democracy without democrats. There should be internal ways of weeding that are not constraining in terms of. So it could be go and sign, get this number of people to sign your form. If you're able to get this number of people to sign your form, then you can. So when you make, we cry about the cost of governance, we cry about how to expand this democratic space, because it took the blood, the toil, the moil of citizens to get us to where we are. It didn't take, you know, like we continue to say, the Nigerian people invested in this democracy. And so if you are a professor, for instance, even if you work for 35 years as a professor, you are not going to earn 100 million naira throughout your service period. So it means that that category of people, you have said that they have no relationship, you know, in your party, that is a public institution. So there is something that is you know, very, very sinister about some of these things that we hear. But the joy of it is that there are other political parties. And we need to encourage Nigerians to take away these attachments. Okay? 16 other political parties exist. The arrogance that we see is because these people have used cronyism, patronage, you know, to saturate the environment in a way that is choking. But we can break that jinx by beginning to look at the multi-party democracy. I know there is a sense in which we are going towards a two-party system, but that can be broken. And we can separate those who are also collaborators of these other two dominant political parties and see whether we can break this arrogance. You know, because there are parties who are not charging this humongous amount of money. But like you see, as of today, we hear about close to 30 people have already taken this 100 million form, and about 17 or more in the
40 million naira PDP.
40 million naira PDP, including those who are taking presidential and senate form at the same time. So when you put the money together, they took senate form in their party and took presidential. So if this one doesn't work, they fall back
a plan B.
To plan B. And a majority of them have no estates that they inherited from rich parents. Many of them have no functional entrepreneurial antecedents that you can look back to. They have put their hand in the public till, and nobody is questioning that. And then we have an EFCC, we have an ICPC, who ordinarily by now should be active in engaging and asking for tax receipts, if nothing else. Even FIRS should be asking for tax. If you can pay 100 million, show us evidence that you have been paying. If those people who paid for you collectively, let's find what they do for a living. That will have been the scare. But as you know, we have left the moral card under which this government was elected. It's now gone back to what it used to be, you know, before. There is no differentiation between the political parties anymore in terms of what they stand for, you know. So we're going to have to educate the people to say, look, at the end of the day, it's about deepening this democracy. It's about ensuring that we expand the space to have more people participate, and it doesn't have to be under these two political parties. And
Mr. Rafsanjani, how difficult would this be to get everyone participate, especially the young people? And that's why I brought up the price of the sales of forms. Are young people being dislocated from this entire process? I mean, Nigeria signed a Not Too Young to Run bill into law in 2018. How far has that gone?
Well, I think first and foremost, the elite in this country have decided to disenfranchise the young people. They have also decided to inculcate poverty in their mindset. They only use them as a vehicle for electoral violence, manipulation, and toggery, period. Otherwise, of all the major contenders that have come from both parties, ask them what have they done to invest in young people. The country is in big crisis. Our young people are growing out of this country every day. You need to see the number of young people, even though where they are going, they are not even sure whether the condition is going to be better than where they left. But because of frustration, they are leaving. Schools are closed down. Our universities have been closed down, and some of the people responsible for addressing and managing our university system, they also want to contest election. Some of the people that are supposed to be responsible for managing labor issues, they also want to contest. Some of the people that are supposed to be presiding over our law in this country, a lot of bridges, they also want to contest. So that a lot, it tells you the kind of situation we find. So the young people have been programmed to understood that the only thing they can do or they can be useful is for politicians to give them drugs, for politicians to engage them for electoral or religious or communal violence. It's for politicians to use them, and be doing yahoo yahoo. Because the grand yahoo yahoo, the people behind it are also equally politicians. So the future of young people in Nigeria has been crippled as a result of irresponsible elite politics that we are seeing. So the young people, the only thing they see now, even young people, even children, the only people they see as mirror is people who they have seen that they have looted money, they go to religious places and they are being given title. The people that have looted the nation and they are now given traditional title. So it's no longer how much you have made contribution in this country that you should be seen as a role model. It is no longer about people who are transparent, who are, who run, a simple life that, we all know our previous leaders had run. Now it is only people how much you have stolen, then I will, follow your example. So they have destroyed young people, and therefore, even on the political participation, they have made it terribly impossible for even the young people to participate in all of the decision-making places. So the young people have been already shortchanged, even with the not too young to run. That has not been really practicalized, because if it has been practicalized, you would have seen that a lot of places are places that will encourage even the young people who are excelling very well. There are a lot of young Nigerians, very talented, that are excelling, but they are not given the chance. You cannot get a job in this country now. You have to pay bribe. They are selling jobs, 3 million, 5 million. Which young man will or young woman will afford that? If you are a woman, for you to get admission into higher institution, they want to try to do things with you. To pass your exam, even that one too, they will try and touch you. So, and some unlucky girls, they will still give themselves, they will still give the bribe, and they will still suffer the consequences of strike and maladministration in the university system. This I'm seeing in the hospital. The healthcare has collapsed. Patients in National Hospital are dying for cancer because corruption has embedded even the cancer machine operators. So many things are just wrong in this country. And young people are frustrated, they are leaving the country. And those ones that they cannot leave the country, they allow themselves to be used by politicians to give them drugs to go and engage in electoral violence.
And this is a big issue, and you paint a very sad picture. But Mr. Ezenwa, do young people understand the power that they have? Do Nigerian people understand the power that they have as electorates? Because you are very particular about electoral reforms. In the last election, 2019, if I recall, the young people registered in Nigeria, about 22 million plus. So they do have the voting bloc. What then is the problem? They can make a change. You talked about decentralizing political parties away from the two major political parties. Are young people making enough effort? Do they understand the power that they have? And how do we give them that power back if they don't have it?
Okay, so that's where I depart. Give them. It's never given. One of the problems we have is that people think that it will be given to them. It is contested. You contest for it. If you want to make a career in politics, if you've made up your mind as a young person, that you want to make a career in politics, you contest it. You don't wait to be given. And we have a mentality of, they know they carry us along. Nobody is going to carry anybody along. The law that was passed in 2018 was not to make you participate in politics. It was to create an enabling environment by reducing the age for contesting for those offices. So having removed those things, you still want somebody to encourage you. Where is the work? The work is to show capacity and competence and integrity in the community where you live, such that even if there is money, somebody used an unknown political party in Nasarawa State and won a House of Assembly election.
So it can be done.
In Bauchi State, in many states, young people who wait to be given are the ones. So society does not just grow with the energy of young people. It also needs the old and the young working together. So nobody is going to wait for each other. We are not going to tie the hand of the old people in a democracy and so that young people can move forward. It doesn't happen. So what are the examples that you can take from South Africa? There's a Malema who left ANC and has cut 2% of the seat in parliament just within how many years? So if you make a choice that you want to draw your career in politics, you have to pay the price. You have to engage and not wait until somebody. Many of them who talk about young people, they are not known in their community. When we were growing up, we were organizing extramural classes for our younger ones in our own community. When you come back from the university, you come to teach, you come to invest. Some of them sleep on Twitter and talk about participation, and some of them talk about how young people will be given chance. Nobody is going to give anybody a chance. That space has to be contested for, and until that dawns on young people, then we are just going to be preaching.
Let's hope you're not preaching to the choir. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Elections should be seen as conduit to deepen democracy, and we can only hope for the best as we count down to the next crucial elections in Nigeria. But I must thank you very much, Mr. Ezenwa Nwagwu, who's the chairman of the Partners for Electoral Reform, as well as the executive director, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Centre, and head of Transparency International Nigeria, Auwal Rafsanjani, for being on the Arise interview with me today. Thank you so much, gentlemen.